Cornwall 810 AD. A man rode on horseback along a forest path. 3 men ran beside him as he hurried along. He was born Ambrose, an Anglo name given to him by his mother. He had joined the Roman legion as a man of 12 and had fought many battles for the last emperor. He was now called Ambrosius Maximus since becoming a Roman citizen. He was dressed in light armor made from woven oxhide and wool underdress. His bearded face was protected by a copper helm, a relic from his legion days. Ambrosius was an Anglo by birth, an Orthodox by religion, a landlord by trade. He was near 40 years old and would soon see death. He had been to Rome once to see the bishop and attend the Senate, but had come back to Cornwall to build his fortune. Rome had been burned and the legions disbanded. He had built a fort around the giant hill on his property, and a village inside the fortress. Not so Merlin, the man running on the left to protect against the evil spirits. Merlin was dressed in a calf-length woolen cloak, known as a wizard's mantle. Merlin was a Celt by birth, a druid by religion, a magician by trade, a sage by choice, and immortal by chance. Well, at least immortal as far as any normal man was concerned. He had lived at least 3 generations, and was barely middle-aged. Merlin was a throwback to an older time. Like Merlin, Lucath could see the elves, fairies, demons, ghosts, goblins, and angels. Lucath was the man, trailing the horse, protecting the rear from who knows what. Lucath was an Irish Celt by birth, a Danann by religion, a warrior by trade, a close friend by choice. He was dressed in light armor, and a wool underdress, and a bearskin cloak. Lucath had a famous reputation, and was already a legend in Irish villages, as the greatest warrior in all of Ireland, and had been recruited by Ambrosius to fight the Picts. He was an even closer friend to Arthur than Ambrosius. Arthur was the Anglo child on the right side, his mentor was Merlin, and he now was the adopted son and heir of Ambrosius. He was about 15 and kept pace with the rushing mare easily. He was dressed in woven armor and a short wool tunic. Arthur was more knowledgeable about the world because he had the training of Roman tutors and the mentorship of Merlin. Pausing beside a fallen tree, Merlin and Lucath spoke with an elf. Ambrosius saw merely a rabbit, but Arthur saw the shape of the rabbit fall from the elf when he looked from the corner of his eye. As they neared the great pond, Merlin raced forward to bless the ground they were approaching. Ambrosius dismounted and then went behind a tree to relieve himself, as was a custom of knights, not wanting to have a full bladder if an emergency occurred. He was also very uncomfortable with this druid ritual. Merlin began singing, not in Latin, the language of the day, but a much older language. A mist arose from the lake, and an ethereal lady appeared for all to see. She walked to the edge of the water, and placed a sword on the bank before dissolving into the mist. Arthur picked up the sword and handed it to his father. This sword, said to have once been given to Perseus by the gods, held ancient power, claimed Merlin. Once again on the forest road, they passed a sign, and Ambrosius felt a chill as he read the scrawled Latin. "There be dragons here." The 4 men stopped their rush, tied up the horse, and crept quietly through the forest. Ahead of them they could hear the great crashing caused by the dragon. As they reached the top of a small hill, they could see the village in the clearing below. Merlin explained, "These dragons have been in the world since before the beginning of human history. A long time ago they ruled all of the great earth. They used to feast on large dragons that walked upon the soil, but have long since devoured all of them. See how the skin is armored, and if you watch long enough they appear like large hens pecking for their food. Smart though, and look at that. It is spitting the firewood onto the hut to burn it and drive out the people." At that moment, a small child of 5 and a young woman of 13 ran from the hut. The dragon was startled but was too far away to reach them on the first peck it tried. Ambrosius ordered, "Arthur, Merlin the children, Lucath with me." The pairs of men raced to their tasks. Ambrosius and Lucath yelling at the top of their lungs to distract the dragon, they reached its shadow and began to stab and poke it with the magic sword and Lucath's lance. The dragon had lived about 150 years, and could not believe the foolhardiness if this fooled. His ancestors were the great Tridons that had ruled the skies of Earth for millions of years. They were the top of the chain of life, and had always been so. These bits of food were yelling at him and poking him with sticks, and even though he had heard of sickly Tridons being killed this way, he was very confident of getting a meal this day. He spotted a critter below and focused on the downstroke. Ah! He had succeeded on this try. He chewed and swallowed, then lifted his head to eye his prey. The 5-year-old girl had tried to get the collie, but the dragon had eaten it whole. Merlin picked her up and joined Arthur and the girl beside the tree, then created a mist to obscure them. Lucath rushed forward and struck the leg of the dragon. The dragon raised its legs, flapped its wings, and floated into the air. Lucath pushed his lance into its stomach, but was shaken from the staff when it stuck fast. The dragon headed for the sheep pen, and Ambrosius grabbed onto the lance. He reached up and with all his strength shoved the magic sword into the chest of the dragon. The sword pierced the heart of the dragon and killed it. However, it was in the air when it died, and Ambrosius was beneath it holding the lance. It crushed Ambrosius as it fell to the ground, the lance piercing its back. They were not able to get his body until the villagers had butchered the dragon. The children Morg and Rowena became wards of Arthur. When the children and the 3 friends returned to Camelot with Ambrosius' body, a great funeral was given. The magic sword had wedged in the sternum of the dragon, and was on display in the courtyard. Arthur was heir, but few wanted to proclaim him warlord. The old legionnaires believed they would better protect the province than this 15-year-old. A contest was decided upon. For 1 year all applicants for the lordship would try to free the magic sword from the stone-like sternum. After 1 year, Arthur would be proclaimed warlord if none succeeded. During the year, Lucath and Arthur fought many outlaws and battles. The last day of the year, Lucath tried to pull the sword and failed. Arthur was to be named warlord, but there was an objection. Arthur must free the sword. He grabbed the hilt of the magic sword and lifted the sternum from the ground, then dropped the sternum and drove the sword through it, cleaving it in half. Of course, Arthur had a year to figure out how to free the sword, but his action was so unexpected that he was applauded by the very legionnaires that had challenged him. By the time Arthur was 26, he had united a large area of the British Island, had recruited Saxon mercenaries to help win several of the wars that he had had to fight. These Saxons settled in Britain and added to the diversity of the people. Arthur had won 6 wars in these years, had improved the city of Camelot, had been wed to Rowena in the Orthodox ceremony. He had been instructed in some of the stranger Druid ceremonies. A particularly creepy one involved the Holy Grail. The Grail was reputed to be the drinking vessel that the Christ had used during the Last Supper, and caught his blood from the spear wound. It was a bowl really about 1 cubit across, made from wood, and being soaked over the years with oils and fluids, it hardened. Merlin showed Arthur a secret ceremony where a human skull, reputed to be that of Christ, was placed in the Grail, and a mixture of oxen blood and wine was poured into the Grail. It was passed from disciple to disciple for drinking. Arthur noted that a very similar ritual was performed as part of the Orthodox Mass.
the lore. Fates are stacked forevermore. Twilight dances on their steel. Destiny they boldly feel. In the heavens stars align, guiding paths to cross the line. Hear the howl of winds undone, a tale as old as moon and sun. The dragons guard the blade of fire. Prove your strength should you aspire. Sounds in rhythm, drums they pound. Legends echo through the ground. Gilded whispers edge the lore. Fates are stacked forevermore. Hear the howl of winds undone, a tale as old as moon and sun. The dragon